folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at Captain Dice. This has a bell in it. I don't like games with bells. I'll try to get over that. Okay. Captain Dice is basically where each player is taking on the role of a pirate captain, and he is taking his ship to all of these different islands trying to find the most treasure. And it is also a dice game, and it is a simultaneously rolling dice game with a timed aspect to it. So again, that's kind of another strike against it. Well, let's see how it goes. I'm going to show you how it works, and then we'll come to my final thoughts after that. So here I have set up for you a 4-player game of Captain Dice. Now, each player is going to start with 6 dice, a hand of 9 attack cards, and then a grid, a 4x4 grid of treasure cards are laid out on the table. As you can see, that each treasure card has a combination of pips that have to be rolled in order to claim that treasure card. And then the rest of the treasure cards are put over here in a draw pile to be used to repopulate the grid after the round is over. Each round of Captain Dice has exactly 4 phases in it, and those phases are replayed over and over and over again until the end of the game conditions are met. The end of the game will commence once there are no treasure cards left in the pile and there are fewer than 8 treasure cards or locations out on the grid. And if that is the case, then you simply count up victory points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, the first phase is the dice phase. Now, the dice phase is where players are going to be simultaneously rolling all of their dice and placing them out onto the field if they get a combination of one of the cards. For example, only a 3 and a 6 can go on this treasure card. Only a pair of 4s can go on this treasure card. Only a 1 and a 2 can go on this treasure card, and so forth and so on. But this is done simultaneously, and it begins by somebody ringing the bell. Yeah, ringing the bell. Once somebody rings the bell, people start rolling their dice. So you have, let's see, 6. Okay, so I have a 6 and a 3 here, so I would be able to place that. Then I can continue rolling. And another 3 6. Is there another 3 6 out there? No. Is there a 1 4? Da 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 da. Oh, there is a 1 4. It's right over here. And we continue doing that until one row has 3 or more locations that have been claimed. Now, those 3 or more claimed locations can be horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So you have to really keep an eye on that. And then once that is that condition is met, somebody can ring the bell to end the dice phase, which is important because the person that rings the bell to end the dice phase actually becomes the first player in the setup phase. Now, in the setup phase is where your actual attack cards will come into effect. These attack cards some of them have different abilities on them, and they all have an initiative number that's up at the top. Initiative 0 always goes first, along with 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th following, and 5th following. You can change that up to, provide a little twist on the game per the rules, but that's how the basic game is. You're going to be taking these different locations that you have chosen and placing cards underneath them so that you are claiming them. So if I wanted to place, for example, this one, let's see, actually I think I want to place it here. I would take my 2 dice off and place it right here like that, and then these 2 dice come back to my pool. So now that is my location. So that's what you're going to be doing during the setup phase. Let's see what these other things are. For example, this is a hand-to-hand combat, so a boarding party has boarded your ship, and so this cross sabers here is where this card is located. It's going to attack all of the adjacent areas, locations that are next to it. Number 2, this is the side cannon attack, where, again, this is the location of the card, and it will attack in both directions into the entire row. The front cannon is going to attack above and below that card, again, in the entire column. The number 4 is the Summon the Kraken, which is a diagonal attack in all directions, this card here being the one where this card is located. So, again, and it's in all locations. So if it's here, if it is placed here, then it'll attack this card, and both of those cards over there. So that's that. And then you have the scout ship or the spy ship, which basically doesn't have any attack ability whatsoever. It is also last in initiative, so it's pretty much a sitting duck for most of the setup phase, or rather the attack phase. But if nobody attacks it, then you still get that treasure. And you have no less than 4 of those. So, during this phase, we would actually put out all of our attack cards. And then once that is done, we would be ready for the battle phase. In the battle phase, we take all of the cards that were placed on locations that were chosen during the setup phase, and we flip them all over. And then once all of those cards are turned face over, you start firing off the effects of those attack cards in order. So the 0 doesn't actually have, he just stays around and makes that location impervious to attack. But starting with the number 1s, we would go in clockwise order from the first player. So for example, there are 2 1s out here. So the green player who was going first is actually the one that would fire first. And since he is a boarding party, he attacks all of the areas that are adjacent to him, of course not his own. All those cards are destroyed like so. And then these cards go back to their respective owners. You'll see that red player just played out 2 5s. He didn't get all of his dice rolls, so he's basically hedging his bets on the next round because he does have 2 more 5s left. He didn't want to use any of his good cards. And then this one would fire, which would kill everything adjacent to him. So this card goes back to blue, and this card goes back to green. All right, so that was the number 1s. Now we go to number 2s. There aren't any left. 3s, 4s, 5s. 5s don't actually have any set locations. So that is the end of the battle phase. Now we're ready to go on to the treasure phase. Now, in the treasure phase is simply where we take the cards that we were able to stick around and survive the battle phase, and those treasure cards become points for the person who won them. And so blue got these 2 down here, and so they come over here, and these go to the discard pile. And green was able to get these 2, which is important because whenever you can procure the ends of a row like this, you actually get to take not just these 2 treasure cards, but everything in between. So in this case, since green got both of these outside ones, they get to take all 4 of the treasure cards that are in that row. And these become points for them as well. And then at the end of the treasure phase, you will restock. And now you're ready to start back at the beginning with the dice phase. And this is how the game plays out until, like I said earlier, this treasure pile is completely gone and there are less than 8 cards in the grid. At that point, everybody counts their treasure cards. Each card is worth 1 point each. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. All right, so first things first. That is how you play Captain Dice. The bell. Did it really have to be there? No. Didn't have to be there at all. You literally ring it twice per round, once at the beginning of the dice phase and once at the end of the dice phase. That's it. So you could actually leave the bell out and you would be none the worse. You just can say, okay, go, and stop. Simultaneous dice rolling with that timed aspect. Did that ruin it for me? No. And the reason it didn't is because it is such a light game, and there are still ways to get around having a lackluster dice phase with the cards that you play. So let's talk about that. The cards, the different action cards. Those were kind of what saved the game for me because I liked how they worked out. And the box says 20 minutes per game. That's pretty close. 20, 30 minutes is probably what you're going to be playing in this game, even if people take a little bit longer to do things out. The timed aspect of the dice phase is what really keeps the game kind of moving along at a pretty fast clip. Because the game is so light, I was a little bit more forgiving on some of these other things. I'll be honest with you. Had you been using that bell more often, it would have been a game changer for me. I would have completely thrown this game under the bus. The card laying phase and how they work out, being the person to be first in the setup phase is a very important thing because it means that your cards are going to be firing first. Initiative order first, yes, but then within those different initiatives, your cards will be going first. And that's important because if your one fires first before that person that's right next to you, and they also played a 1, then their 1 goes away. Okay, so that's an important thing. That's very key, I think, to doing well. So being the first person to be setting up your cards in the setup phase and then triggering them on the battle phase, that's huge. It's not really a thematic game. It could really be anything, fighting over anything. But the fact that it's pirates fighting over all of these different islands that have treasure on them, that's cool. And it's also very lighthearted, so there isn't a whole lot of animosity that goes on during the game. It's a very lighthearted, fun, frolicky type of game that's over in about 20-30 minutes. And that's cool. I don't like games that are heavy on the dexterous, timed dexterity type element where you're rolling dice as fast as you can, and finding all these different places for them. If it had been just that, I wouldn't have liked it as anywhere near as much as I do. But because that is balanced with this other phase of playing cards from your hand and kind of having very strategic choices on what you need to do. Am I going to use my heavy card this turn that is very powerful? Or am I going to kind of just sit back, hedge my bets, and wait until next turn? And maybe then I'll be able to score a lot of cards that turn. I like those kinds of things. So having that phase balance out the very fast-paced dexterity timed phase, that worked well as far as me liking it in its favor. So all in all, I think it's a game that a lot of people will enjoy. I don't know if it is eccentric enough to differentiate itself from everything else that's out there in the same kind of similar vein of doing things in a timed, a dexterity type thing. I don't know if that's going to happen. The bell might kind of work against it, especially at game meetups where, you're ringing this bell, other people around you are probably getting a little bit agitated with you. Again, you only ring it twice, or you're supposed to only ring it twice. I can see some people going, oh, man, ding, 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 that kind of thing. All in all, I think I enjoyed the game a lot more than I thought I would. It had a lot of strikes going against it before actually getting it to the table. But with all that being said, I did enjoy the game. I'll give it 1 thumb up, and that's it from me on Captain Dice. We'll see you guys on the flip side.